They are entering their 33rd season of Major League Baseball, and maybe never have they been this desolate going into a season, this disinteresting.
It's sad. That's the easiest way that I could put it. 61 and 101 last year. What is that? They'd never had a 100-loss season. Now there's 2 of them in a row. And what did they do this offseason? They just traded Nolan Jones a couple of days ago, which I don't really understand, to be honest with you. They keep Zach Veen down in the minor leagues. He'll obviously be up at some point here in the regular season. But what about this Rockies team? And look, I'm an optimist at heart, so I'm excited to see, some of the young guys coming up and this and that. But you and I were together, arm in arm, essentially, covering the Rockies when they were making the playoffs back in 17 and 18. You know as well as I do that when they're hot, when they're playing well, Coors Field is packed. Coors Field is the place to be, and it has been devoid of energy for over a half decade now.
Yeah, I'm looking.
This is the least excited I've been for Rocky season.
I'm looking right now at the all-time top 24 players in Rockies history on Baseball Reference according to their WAR rating, and I've covered 8 of the top 10 players in Rockies history. I was on the beat for 8 of the top 10. Only one is still on the team because Charlie Blackmon just retired. That's one thing that did happen this offseason. Kyle Freeland is one of the top 10 Rockies of all times according to WAR. 11th is Herman Marquez. So they still do have 2 icons of Rockies history on this team. However, I don't think that the current Kyle Freeland, who got lit up on opening day, then everyone forgot he existed for the rest of last season, and Herman Marquez coming off major surgery are going to be enough to turn this team from a 101-game loser to even a 500 team.
I mean, and that's not even 500 team. How could you even say that? I mean, like, you put it out at denversports.com, our staff predictions, this and that. I mean, what was the highest somebody had him at? 69, 70, if that?
Yeah, they were in the 70s.
I had him at 68, and that felt generous.
Well, Dick Monfort did say earlier this year at his little baseball thing that he does up in Greeley that he could see the team going 500.
Oh,
so I just wanted to be fair.
Well, what's the definition of insanity, Jake? Same thing over and over and expecting the same or a different result.
Well, they're doing something different with Zach Veen than they've done with their other top prospects. Trevor Story came up right away. A lot of these top prospects, Kyle Freeland has started right away, and I think the Rockies are 10 years behind. In a lot of ways, they're 10 years behind.
Maybe 20.
But about 10 years ago,
analytics and laundry, baby, let's go.
When Chris Bryant was coming up, he was the top prospect in baseball. They purposely sent him down to the minors to start the year, to manipulate his service time. Basically, in baseball, you get one more year at the end of a contract if you decide to start a minor leaguer off in the or major leaguer off in the minors for the first 15 days of one season. However, Major League Baseball has adjusted these rules in the last 5 years and now gives you an extra draft pick for doing these things. So the Colorado Rockies, who, by the way, cannot pick in the top 10 of next year's MLB draft because they've been tanking for so long, and this is part of MLB's anti-tanking initiative, are foregoing an extra draft pick and just saying, okay, we're not ready for Zach Veen. How about some Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick in the 2016 MLB draft?
It's insanity. I mean, it really is insanity. Like, there's nothing. And look, Rockies fans, there's some good Rockies fans out there. As I talked about during those playoff runs, a lot to be excited about. But even the most hardcore of Rockies fans are tuned out to this team. I mean, there is no buzz whatsoever around this season. Now, I can give you a few reasons why you should be interested and excited about this Rockies team, because the one thing about Colorado, I know a couple of years ago it was especially rough, but they do have a nice crop of young players that will crack the big leagues this year and in years to come as well. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. But at the end of the day, like, all I've asked for the Rockies long term is, can you get us to Broncos training camp? Can you be competitive? Can you give me something to watch on a Thursday night at 7:10? I mean, that's where I'm at with Colorado. And I mean, looking at the standings even from last year, Jake, look, the Giants didn't have a great season. They haven't had a good year in a while here. 80 and 82, though. The Rockies, 61 and 101. So at least if you're a Giant fan, you can sit back and say, you know what? We were close to 500. They brought back the old president of baseball operations from the Dodgers, I believe. Right? The Diamondbacks.
Buster Posey's running the team
exactly.
now. Yeah.
The Diamondbacks, 89 and 73.
How about, by the way, the San Diego Padres, who finished second in the NL West last year and almost beat the Dodgers in the playoffs? That was very close. They only spent 15 to 20 million more on their roster than the Rockies. How many games above the Rockies did they finish, Anilo?
Too many.
32, I think.
San Diego went 93 and 69. Colorado 61 and 101.
32.
Exactly. And it's just...
It's not the Dodgers. It's the Rockies.
And that's the sad part is, again, it's not like they've never won a World Series. Heck, they never won a division title. It's not like you're asking them to move mountains, but can you be competitive? Can you be competitive? Why is it so hard? I understand altitude at pitching, and I know you're loud, but it's a shame. It's a shame. You know.
Do you know the last time the Dodgers lost 100 games in a season?
Oh, my gosh. That must have been too long ago. I mean, even when it was the Matt Kemp days before Magic bought the team, I mean, the Andre Ethier and company, they were still decent from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say what, 2000, well, they were making the playoffs in 06. I'm going to guess like 09?
Lost 100 games in 09.
Something like that. I don't know Dodgers lore like that off the top of my head.
2009, right?
Yeah.
Is your guess? They last lost 100 games in 1908.
Ah, look at that.
Not 09.
Yeah, you know,
1908.
only 100 years off.
Yeah, only 100 years off. They've lost 100 games twice in their entire franchise history, both in 1905 and 1908 when they were the Brooklyn Super Bass. They weren't even the Dodgers yet.
Jeez.
That's how pitiful the baseball has been for the Rockies, and I understand that they started at a disadvantage being a expansion franchise in the era of baseball. You look at their counterparts in Miami, they've never been able to get it off the ground. A couple years later, the Diamondbacks have kind of had these cycles where they get really good and then
won
really
a World
bad.
Series.
But they did win a World Series.
Miami too.
They've won divisions. You know, the Marlins have won 2 World Series, not just one.
Right.
The Rockies have never quite figured out how to be great. They, for a while, all you could give them was at least they were decent, at least they had fun players, at least they were interesting for a lot of the summer. They are not even that anymore. All they are is a exhibition team that shows up to the ballpark so you can drink beer.
Yeah, Coors Field's nothing more than Denver's best bar. Your ticket's your cover. I mean, look, someone wants to go to a Rockies game, I'm in. Maybe I'm the problem. You know, I'm part of it. But at the end of the day, I mean, Coors Field is such a great ballpark, 3rd oldest in the National League, by the way, which is crazy to think about. But to your point, I mean, I even think back to those Tulo Cargo, years where they weren't very good, but at least they were fun. And look, there's some young players. We'll talk about Zach Veen. Ezekiel Tovar has got to be one of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball. I mean, he is an absolute stud of a shortstop. Drafted Charlie Condon. I know he's a few years away as well.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
But at the end of the day, like, there is slight rooting interest with this team, but the body of work, I mean, I'm supremely confident when I say they're likely losing another 100 games this year.
When was the last time you circled a Rockies game on the schedule and said, I have to be in the ballpark for this game?
When the Mets are in town.
Well,
yeah, from that perspective. But no, in a legitimate sense, since Arenado was here.
Okay. For me,
I guess that was the COVID year, right? His last year here?
Yeah. For me, it was the day Tovar debuted. I said,
Fair.
I know this guy's going to be a stud. I want to go see him play. That was the last time. Besides that, there hasn't been a Rockies reason. I want to go see L.A. De La Cruz. I want to go see Paul Skeens, who come pitch here this year, please, Paul. Yeah, other teams, the Yankees, Shohei Ohtani. I want to see the other teams. And you look at the Rockies, the way they've advertised ticket sales the last couple of years, they're selling the other teams. They're not selling
100%.
the Rockies. And that's the unfortunate part about the Rockies is as long as we grew up here in Colorado, Anilo, we always had a player to look up to. It was either Tulo or Cargo or Todd or even Trevor Story for a year, the Larry Walker. There was always a great player on the team. This is a time when they got Chris Bryant to maybe be that great player. Obviously, that hasn't worked. And now we've gone a couple years in a row without the Rockies having a star. And it's been kind of funny to watch who they send to the All-Star game this year. Yeah, but I do think this is the year that finally a star player reemerges for the Rockies, whether it's Ezekiel Tovar or Brenton Doyle.
And that's the thing that does have me optimistic. Optimistic isn't the right word, but maybe a sliver of excitement is like, you should be able to see the future developing before your eyes. I think back to Trevor Story's rookie year. They didn't make the playoffs that year in 2016. They're not going to be as good as that because they don't have the pitching coming up in the farm system. But you had Story, Arenado was established, Cargo was still doing his thing. Tovar's great. Ariel Amador, going to get some real run this year as well. Zach Veen, when he comes up, Brenton Doyle, can he follow up his incredible season last year? So there are some moments and there's some players that you can rally around, but the body of work, it's going to be putrid.